Hello, you guys. Welcome back to the channel. How are you guys doing today? I'm doing pretty great today. I did film a video earlier, and so I'm filming my second video today. It's a little bit later. I was doing a lot of stuff earlier, and I ended up standing out in the sun for an hour, not by choice, and it was very hot today. And so if I look a little crazy right now, that's because I was standing out in the Georgia heat for an hour, and that was not great, but I'm feeling a lot better now, so now I'm going to film a video. So I'm going to be talking about books I've been reading for the past month. I've been reading I've been doing really good with my reading. I've been keeping up the pace since January. I've been on fire. Honestly, I had a pretty slow month in May, but that was because of the end of the school year, and I'm a teacher, and so I just didn't have enough time to be reading. But summer has been great. I've been loving reading some books. I've been reading a lot of hard copies. I haven't been for the past month, I'll say. June, I did read some ebooks on the Kindle app, but this past month, I've really been all of my hard copies. I've been going to the library, checking out books. So all the books I have, most of the books I have are hard copies. So I'm just going to tell you kind of my quick thoughts on them, give them like a quick grade, and just recommend them to you or not. So if you're interested in seeing some quick book reviews and seeing what I've been reading as of recently, then just keep on watching. If you like this video by the end, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, obviously give it a thumbs down if you don't like it, obviously. And if you like content like this, I do some book content here and there on my channel. I mainly do like movie reactions and makeup videos, but I also love throwing in the book content. I'm thinking later on to kind of separate, maybe do a second channel where I do books and movies, and then just keep this channel, or maybe I'll keep this channel movies and books and do a second channel with makeup. I don't know, but I'm thinking of separating them. But for now, I'm keeping it as is until my channel grows a little bit. But why am I still talking? Let's just get to the books. Subscribe, like, guys, all that stuff. If you haven't been keeping up with my reading stuff here on my channel, I had a reading challenge at the beginning of the year. I actually had 3. It's kind of crazy because what I've been doing is I've been putting the books on each of the challenges, so it's not like I'm reading like different books for each challenge. I'm just filling it into the different lists. Maybe I'm a little off, but my goal was at first to read 25 books. I'm way past that now, but I still haven't filled in my bingo thing because I have just gone off of the prompts now. So this was kind of just to get me back into reading, but now that I'm in full force, I'm just picking books that I really enjoy. So I've created a second bingo on the back of this one. I'm like way past 25 books right now. I've upped my goal to 50 now, which I think I will definitely surpass. So that's great. It's like get back to the old days where I could read like 100 books a year and no problem, but I'm thinking 50 for the year is going to be a great goal to set, especially now that the school year is about to start back up again. It's going to be busy. I think 50 is a good goal. So let me go into, I made a mistake of not marking the books that I read in certain months, but I did this time, so I actually have when I read them written down on some of them, which is great because I do forget. But let's go back to June. So June, I read, first off, let's start with this one. I got this from the library. This is a library copy. This is Cycle of the Wolf by Stephen King. I recently reacted to the movie adaptation of this, which is Silver Bullet. If you haven't seen me react to that movie for the first time, I will link it up in the eye or in the description box. And so I decided, let's go ahead and get the novella for this. And this one is very short. I finished it in like literally probably like a day and a half, maybe a day and a half. It's got pictures and stuff in here too as well, illustrations. Really, really nice. Very cool. But it's about a werewolf basically who comes into this town and starts terrorizing people, killing people. And it's a really good little short read. If you like horror, I think you would enjoy this. It's a bit different from Stephen King's normal format for his books though. It's following like the year, so each like chapter is kind of a different month, and so you're following it like that, and each chapter is not necessarily, they're all connected with the deaths caused by this werewolf, or the kills caused by this werewolf, done by this werewolf, but it's not very like, it's not super connected like the characters. It's like you're hopping from different characters in the story, in the town. But I really enjoyed this. I liked this format. I thought this was really good. Very, very good. And you do have like one little boy character that is kind of like the central, he gets like scared by the werewolf earlier on, or like in the middle of the book, and then by the end he's the one that kind of is like, you know, let me not spoil the book. Read this, it's good. I would give this, if I were to give this a letter grade, I'm coming a little biased towards Stephen King because he's like one of my favorite authors, but I would probably give this like a B plus, because I think that this was a quick, nice read, really solid story, and I liked how, even though I watched the movie before reading this, I liked how it was adapted to the movie as well. I think they did a really good job in the movie, and even though I saw it first, does that make sense? B plus for that one. Let's move on. So, also in June, I'm sorry. Oh, I don't have this book with me. I do have a physical copy because it's my book, but I had to read, one of my prompts was to read a classic novel, and so I chose Peter Pan because I own it, and I feel like I've obviously seen Peter Pan, but I don't think I've ever read it, and I've owned it for some years now. So I went ahead and sat down and just read through it. It is a children's novel. Actually has some very some kind of, you know, tough little topics in there actually, but it was a very quick read. I read it in like 2 days because it took me a bit to get into it but I really enjoyed it though. Obviously Peter Pan, I'll pop up a picture. You know what Peter Pan is, right? Obviously I've seen the movie before I read the book. I knew it was a book, but I just never read it. I feel like I have read it before a long time ago, but I didn't remember most of the details. But I went ahead and read it. It was a quick little read, very, very easy, and it filled in my little checkpoint for read a classic novel. And also on my list here, I had to read a novel that was like set in a certain time and that fit, or had a character or something, some prompt I had to do. And so I read Peter Pan and that fit in. Read a book that starts with the letter P. That's what it was on this list. So that fit for that prompt, so that's why I picked it, and I actually really enjoyed it. I had fun with it. It was really just like super silly, like super great for kids. I definitely would like recommend it for like mid-grade kids or elementary kids for sure. Probably would give it to my younger sister for her to read as well. It was cute. It was really fun, and I enjoy going back to like middle school books and reading. Like R.L. Stine is like one of my favorite authors, and I still to this day will go back and read a Goosebump book. So I enjoyed it. I'll give that one as a classic. It was very good. I thought it was nice. I'll give that one like a B minus for sure. B minus for sure. So Peter Pan, I read that in June. Let's keep going. Is that all I did for June? You know what? June was kind of slow too. I think June was kind of, yeah. That was June. Let's go to July. So I have 3 more books that I got from the library. Let me start with this one. This is Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. So I read Clay's Ark by Octavia E. Butler. Was it I think it was May. Maybe May or early June. And I really enjoyed that book. It was really weird, but it was like good weird. And I know she does a lot of sci-fi. So I was like, let me get another one by her. I really want to read Kindred, but I can never find it at the library. It's always checked out. It's so hard to find. I just actually purchased it from Books A Million. I renewed my account with them, and so I'm going to be getting it soon. It has already shipped, but I went ahead and checked this one out from the library because it was in stock, and I've heard about this book as well. Wow, this was such an interesting read. A lot of her works I'm finding really have me thinking after I'm done reading them. Like, they have me thinking about them even like days later. Very, very interesting plots and concepts. So this book is basically about this young girl, who's living in this kind of very terrible society. It's kind of like a futuristic society. It's set in 2025, which maybe it was a long time when this book was written, but that's very close to us. And it's set in California, and there's these families living in these walled communities, and outside of these communities is just danger and killings and just wild stuff happening, where it's not safe to be basically living outside of this community that they've built. And every day it's just like the looming danger is coming in, that these people that are outside, that have lost all laws and like morals, or kind of like they're just wild. It's anarchy. It's just everybody's doing whatever they want. They're creeping to this community, and sooner or later they're gonna get in. And this girl, like, they're burning stuff, they're raping, they're murdering. It's crazy. warning, trigger warning. Probably shouldn't have. Okay, yeah. But this girl, she wants to kind of prepare her community for what's inevitably coming, that they're going to be coming over into their community. And she also has these different, like, I shouldn't say weird, what should I say? She has like all of these thoughts in her mind. Her dad's a preacher, first off, let me start with that. But she doesn't really believe. She kind of has her own thoughts on that, like, who, like, I don't even know how to explain it. That's the thing. Like, Octavia Butler, I got it so well. I was reading it, but I don't know how to explain it back to the camera here. But the girl basically has, like, her own thoughts on what is, like, for spiritually. Spiritually, she has her own thoughts that she doesn't really believe what is being said to her from her preacher dad. And she develops her own kind of thought process. She calls it Earth Seed or something like that. What is it? Something like Earth Seed or something, where she's going to start like she wants to start like a whole movement of this. Let's just say you have to read it to understand. And somebody better could probably explain it, but I can't. It's really, I liked it. It was weird though. It's like all of her works are like, I don't know, they're like so weird, but they're so good. And it just wants me to read, like, I want to read more from this author. I want to get more of her books and just see where she's going with all these like ideals that she's got going on. And there seems to be like a common theme in her books. They're set like in the future, and it's just like people have gone crazy. Like, people have just gone off the wagon. At least the two books I've read, Clay's Ark and this one, I see a lot of similarities between them. If I were to rate this book, I'm thinking like B+. I think it's a B+ as well. I don't know if it was a complete A for me. I think like a B+. Yeah, I think a B+ is good because I did have some issues with some parts of the book. Like, some parts were jarring. It just wasn't a perfect like A+, but I would give it a B+. I think it was really enjoyable. Let's move on. Okay, so next in July, I read this book, Grown. I was in the library just browsing, how I do, and what drew me to this book was the cover. I'm just gonna be like honest. Like, I just saw this, I was like, wow, that's just a like popping cover. Like, it's just drawing me in. So I picked it up and I read the inside. And it's basically about this girl named Enchanted who wants to be a famous singer, and she gets caught up with this older pop R&B star who kind of traps her into like a cult thing, manipulates her. She's a young girl, she's in high school, and basically the beginning of the book starts off, I read the first line also when I was in the library, and I was like, oh yeah, I want that. But there is a trigger warning for SAR, assault, child, all that. Yeah, it's all that's in here. So the first line reads, when I wake up, I am level eye with a puddle of beet juice soaked into the carpet, soft fibers cushioning my cheek. The beet juice is dark, thin, dry, sticky between my fingers. And then immediately I thought, okay, that's not beet juice, that's blood, which it says down here later on. So when I read the first page, I was like, okay, that just drew me in. So basically this pop star ends up dead, and she's like the main suspect, and it jumps back and forth between present and the past leading up to the killing of this pop star who was not a great guy at all. He, abused people, young girls that were younger than him. It very much parallels like the R. Kelly case. Yeah, so very interesting. It's very much like, I feel like it borrowed some from real life with that case and other cases where you see people in power positions that take advantage of young girls that want to be famous and, take advantage of them in all different ways, And so it's really, really good. I really enjoyed the book. It does have some strong topics in here, so if you're sensitive to that, maybe this won't be the best read for you. Actually, I have a couple books that had some like strong topics in them, but this was really, really enjoyable. I really liked this. I was very much surprised at myself because I don't really too much drift towards contemporary fiction on a regular basis. I really like my fantasy or romance and historical. I always am drawn to those types. But this was very enjoyable. I really enjoyed this. I would give this, just because of how well it was done around the topic, I don't think it's a perfect book. Maybe an A-, just because it surprised me, it definitely surprised me for sure. And that's always good for me. Definitely recommend that one. And then the book I just finished yesterday, which prompted me to make this video today. Yeah, this big boy. A Little Hatred by Joe Abercrombie. Did I say the author name of any of these other books? Probably not. This is Tiffany D. Jackson. Really good. I'm really looking out for that author. I think that's her first book, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'm not. Don't take that at face value. But I think that's her first book. But A Little Hatred by Joe Abercrombie. I just finished this literally yesterday. Traumatized me at the end. I really need to see what happens next. I know that this has more books to it, but I just picked this up on a whim because I've heard the name Joe Abercrombie for fantasy novel, or he's really good at world building, he's really good at writing, and blah 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 blah. And I always hear the names Brandon Sanderson. Is that right? Yes. And Joe Abercrombie and a couple other names, but I've never read anything from this author. This is my first book by him. I don't know if this was a great first pick, but I really, really liked this book. It was good. It was a good book. I enjoyed all the characters. I thought it was interesting how we were following different characters throughout the story and just seeing how they all kind of came together and intertwined towards the end. I think he really built up the characters very well in explaining kind of their traumas, their triggers, what they're kind of dealing with in life, and how that is shaping them. Very excellent. I like how it ended as well, kind of like on a cliffhanger, like we don't know what's going to happen. All of it's really, really good. So we're following like 6 main characters. I'm going to say all of their names wrong probably. So this is at least from my point of view. We're following, it says 4 here, but I kind of have added in a couple myself. So we have Leo, who's like this young warrior guy who's like big and bad, or thinks he is, but he's like kind of headstrong and not too much strategic thinking, but he's in a war against this other young guy, against the whole army, but the main guy that we're kind of following on the other side is Store Nightfall, who's to me seems a little bit like a psychopath just from this first book. Then we also have Savine, who's like this socialite lady who's all about the money. She's very like cold-hearted and just thinking about herself and how to build money and how to and also the book is set in kind of in a time where they're moving away from like old thinking and they're getting machinery, you know, that type of, what is it called, industry is coming in, how would you call that the dawn of the machine age, I guess you can call it like that, where they're starting to replace people with machines to produce things. Factories are coming in, child labor, stuff like that, you know, that kind of era that we think of in our world set into this world, fantasy world. And she owns a lot of business and stuff, and she's kind of like just all about herself. And then we also have Rike. I don't know if I'm saying that right. She's a young woman who has visions, and she has the long eye, which is basically visions. She's seeing things, but they're not always clear. And we have Prince Orso, who is the prince, obviously, and he's kind of like a kind of useless prince, basically, just whoring around, not really doing his, princely duties. And then there's also Vic, which I don't think they mentioned her in this little excerpt here, but she's kind of a young girl who has lived a very tough life, who her family fell from disgrace, and now she's working for these people that are trying to take down these protesters, basically. There you go. Very, very quick little description of the 6 characters. I really enjoyed reading about all of them. I enjoyed all of the different battles and the politics in the book. It didn't bore me. Usually some of that stuff might bore me. It didn't bore me in this book. It was really, really good and well done. The fantasy is not super high in this one, I would say. I mean, you have the girl that's having visions and you have Magi and stuff like that, but it's almost more like almost historical fiction based, but like in a different world type of thing. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. I want to read the second one. I actually already bought it in my order that I did with the other books, so that's exciting. So I really like that one. I would give that one A+. That was like my A+ for July for sure. Okay, I'm trying to see if I've read any other books. I don't think I did. If I did, I'm didn't write them down, or I didn't put them on this list. But those are the books I pretty much read. I'm currently reading Sundown Motel. I think that's what it's called. It was one of my book of the month books that I've had for several months. I've never read it yet, but I'm starting it now. And it's a horror novel, so I'm really excited about that. I love horror novels as well. Fantasy, horror, and romance are like my top 3 genres to read. But those are the books I read for June and July. Hopefully you got something out of this. Did you read these books? Have you read these books in the past, was what I meant to say. What do you think about them? If you haven't, I would definitely recommend them. All of the books I read this past month, I've actually enjoyed a lot. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe down below if you want to see more like this. And yeah, we'll check you guys out in the next video very, very soon. Stay safe. Adios.